Things should be working. All right, welcome to a special episode of Formula One Fanatics. This is not the one where we have hints of laughter. Actually, this is a hint of a disaster for Red Bull, and that's where we're going to start off. Special episode we're having today, right after qualifying. I'm here with Johnny, who's in Lagos. He's the one with the sunglasses. Kunle is the one with the sunglasses, but also the wife beater and singlet or something like that. And I'm Mustafa Janadu here, and I'm Washington D.C. So let's get straight into it. Um, very clear. Let's get the scientific explanations. Red Bull had no front or back grip, and Verstappen came P7 behind Liam Lawson in the sister car, which is slow as hell. I'm not even going to talk about Yuki. Yuki somewhere lost in the annals of time. Maybe he came P whatever, P 14, 15, 16. I don't know. But this is a disaster of Red Bull. And as many great moments as Verstappen has had this year, the RB21 is inconsistent. It has been inconsistent since last year, since it started tail doving in Miami, and then they had the exodus of all these guys like Adrian Newey, Whit Marsh, Rob Marshall. All of them are gone, and the car has one thing that's been consistent about the car is that since last year it has struggled with balance. Absolutely no grip in the front or back of this tire. Verstappen stood no chance. I've said it before. I think it's time for Verstappen to think about leaving Red Bull and really go to Mercedes if he wants to salvage his career, because it doesn't seem like Red Bull's heading anywhere. They don't have money. They've lost all the great guys. I think Red Bull will rise again in the future, but maybe 5 or 6 years. This is how they do. When Vettel went down, it took them 5 or 6 years before, even more than that, 7 years before Verstappen rose to bring them back. Verstappen can't wait 7 years to languish on that team. Another thing, it was hot in that track today, so that might have had an effect. But literally, he was so far behind, absolutely no grip. And I have to take back what I said. Losing Nui and losing aerodynamicists is hurting them. They've got Pierre Vacher, who's good with setup from day to day, but there is a fundamental flaw with this car. What do you think, Mr. Johnny?
Yeah, I think they even knew that they had problem even from pre-practice one, because they've been doing simulations on hard tires, because I think they want to go long, they want to go long and do something long in the race, because even especially free practice three, I was watching it. He was the only one working with the hard tires, and then Yuki was working with the soft tires. So there's that. But then I also think during his last lap, he just made a slight error that took him off. He made a slight error.
Yeah,
I
but I don't think it would have
think
made a difference
also,
because he was slow in all the sectors before. Yeah.
I
Sector
think, but at
one.
least he would have come at least maybe like what, sixth or fifth or
Yeah,
so.
at that point he might have been dejected because there's no grip or whatever. He said Fashi, he didn't concentrate. Another thing we need to do. I don't know why they keep using these C6s, C5, C4, C5, C6. Why I don't know why they keep bringing that. That C6 is not a good tire, and when it's very hot, it makes it even more unpredictable. But we know that McLaren has fantastic grip, so that and it seems like the grip that McLaren has is what's really salvaging their tires and giving them low tire drag because it doesn't slide as much. So they have a lot of problems. Any last thoughts about that, Mr. Johnny? Yeah.
Oh, I think also with McLaren is that I think there's one thing about the head is that stability. They're really stable.
Oh yeah. Don't worry, we're gonna get to
So that's
McLaren.
what's helping them. Okay, but yeah, about Verstappen, I just think that, yeah, man, something wrong
But
with that car. Something
yeah,
is wrong with that car.
in general, I don't know because they're reloading next year. Aston Martin and Mercedes are going to be the fastest cars. Maybe Verstappen may want to jump. He may not because Verstappen is very loyal. He's had the same, and he doesn't have his race engineer this weekend. His race engineer had a family emergency. That may play part of
Yeah.
it. So, but I mean, I'm not making excuses for him. But my thing is that he likes the same setting. He wants his dad around. He likes Helmo Marco. He likes those guys. So he may stay at Red Bull or he may quit before he goes to another team, which is okay. I mean, that's just life. What are your thoughts, Kule, about Red Bull's qualifying? It's Kule here.
Mule?
Sorry, you froze. I didn't hear any. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Oh dear.
We're talking about Red Bull. So what do you think?
Oh,
Maybe I
dear.
don't know if you heard what we said. We want to
Okay,
focus
can
on
you
Red
hear
Bull
me
first.
now? Yes.
Max Verstappen coming P7. Yeah, P7 behind Lawson. Yeah.
Yeah, Red Bull has clearly lost a lot of pace. Was lost a lot of something. Sonoda didn't even get past P1. I think he went out in the first session. I think 18th or something at the back of the track. Yes, Red Bull's car seems to be depreciating faster now. And if I was Verstappen, I'll be able to see that, look, this car's going to get caught out and exposed on these kind of tracks where you can't really hide on this Austrian track. Your car can't hide. If it's not got the pace and the grip, you're not going to do well. Ferrari have changed their floor, and it seems to be helping them with their grip, and they seem to be right up there trying to tangle with the McLarens. But I think that Red Bull are clearly in some sort of crisis right now.
Yeah, and speaking of which, George Russell's in a crisis. He didn't do too well. I think George Russell is also a little bit distracted by all of this talk of why he doesn't have his. And there's more and more yelling that Verstappen is maybe going there. Russell even was distracted, but the reason Mercedes didn't do well is not because Russell's only because he's distracted. It's too hot. Their tires don't do well on this type of track, and their tires don't do well on high-speed corners. So that's one of the main reasons. But in general, Russell looks demotivated too. I think did Antonelli out-qualify him, or he barely out-qualified Antonelli. So I think Russell and Verstappen, who are the big enemies, this is not a good weekend for them. And more people are saying, what happened now? Why you no sign now? Why you no sign Russell? So I think part of it has to do with that. And also just in general, Russell knew that the car wouldn't do well, and he knew that they would be where they are. But in general, things aren't looking good for him. And with these types of performances, if Verstappen wants to, he can go. And Toto, the boy who cried wolf, will just get rid of his ass, I swear. Because even Russell tends to be struggling against what's his name more and more over the past weeks, even though he's winning against his teammate. Antonelli has been giving him a good fight, sort of like the fight between Hamilton and Leclerc. Even though Leclerc is beating Hamilton, Hamilton's still putting in some good punches. And it looks like Antonelli is the man for the future for Mercedes. They might as well bring in Verstappen. What do you think, Mr. Johnny?
Yeah, Mercedes, I think they did some kind of weird.
Yeah.
They did some aerodynamic changes on their car, and I think it's affected them a bit. They made the wind ducts for cooling the tires. They made it a bit bigger so that can cool the tires bigger, and so I think that also probably
because they know they have problems of heat.
Yeah, so that probably affected the aerodynamic and then the speed. Just a bit, I think. And then also the heat was hitting them. I think that affected them because they were actually looking good in free practice. In practice session, they did very, very good.
They did well in Canada because Canada doesn't really have corners. It has chicanes and left and right turns. It doesn't have a lot of corners because Mercedes tends to do well in tracks with hairpins and deceleration and traction. But once you start having corners, they drop back a little bit. Now let's go to McLaren. So here's the thing. McLaren, unbelievable. They changed their front suspension for Norris. They changed the geometry of the front suspension, and they made aerodynamic changes, and they made changes on the corners of Norris's front tires. And now he can feel the car when it rotates because he was complaining there was too much grip and he felt disconnected. But this one, it doesn't reduce the grip, but it makes him feel as if he's getting input from the tires. It's improved the feel. Piastri said he didn't want those changes. Norris got those changes, and we saw the difference. This guy beat the closest guy by half a second. Yeah. We have to give credit to McLaren. Beautiful changes, and that's a big change to make. So I think what they did was they took him seriously when he said the car is unpredictable. And these changes they've made to the front tires and the front suspension with the geometry, changing the angles at which it rotates, it makes him feel more connected to the front. And we saw the difference. What do you think, Kunle?
Yeah. Yes, I mean, when we saw the qualifying times, we saw the McLaren had improved from Q1 to Q3 by, yes, and throughout the entire qualifying session, Verstappen wasn't able to improve his car at all. I mean, there's barely like 0.3 seconds improvement. McLaren's car is clearly coming into its own. I think that's going to make them quite dominant on Sunday. However, I do put in this caveat. Leclerc is going to be fast, but he's reckless, and it's the kind of race that he could win or crash. And I have a feeling he's going to do, or I think he's going to get on the podium or he's going to crash out. That's my feeling
as
about.
long as he takes Norris with him, I'm okay. Okay.
Yeah, man.
Go ahead,
I
Mr.
think
Johnny.
Leclerc is either good, and watch out for Hamilton. This car is also doing quite well.
Ferrari's doing
And
well, yeah.
you know, when it comes to other things like time management, yeah.
No, but seriously, I did my research because I saw the changes that these guys made to Norris's front suspension. It has made that car a lot more controllable. I don't think they gave up grip, but what they did was they changed the way the tires. They narrowed the angle of the tires when it's rotating. So basically, they're doing for him what Verstappen does when Verstappen tries. Verstappen stays calm with his tire and then gently turns it. But now they've sort of restricted and they've put airflow in the front to restrict the movement on the front tires when it rotates to help him on fast corners. You see what I'm saying, Mr. Johnny? That's ingenious. It's ingenious.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
Piastri said he doesn't want it because Piastri doesn't have a problem with that type of rotation. You get what I'm saying? Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. When I was listening to the radio with Norris and the engineers, Norris sounded like somebody who was at peace where he was. He sounded very calm and very happy. He even sounded like, as if he was getting a getting the blowjob, like
Yeah.
he felt satisfied with the car. The car was like,
He was like, look,
I think
mom, no hands,
yeah,
mom.
it felt like
simply comely.
Like one with the car, he was like, yes. Even when they told him it was P1, he was like, yes. His voice even sounded like he's in the zone. So he's like, he's out. He's like,
but I
he's
promise
going to
you,
be a machine tomorrow.
One day we're going to find out.
But what I think also, Piastri is one, he can be constant. Making all those going around there, and that kind of constant can lead to the lead. Because like Norris can do one good lap, then one bad lap, one good lap. Everything, and he'd be struggling every time. But Piastri just has that patience.
I think the handling of Norris's car, this is scary, man, because now the handling is good. They improved the car for him, and the car is so stable.
Yeah.
Think about it, half a second. He beat Leclerc by half a second per lap for one lap. That's a big difference. Over a race, that could be he may win by 30 seconds. Tomorrow will be interesting to see what the gap will be for that race. Yeah. And remember, he was driving well last week against Piastri.
Yeah, he was actually doing well.
And also, I have a theory. When he crashed out, that was the lowest he could go. So he doesn't have the nerves anymore because he's so far behind Piastri that he doesn't feel pressure, so he'll drive better. What do you think?
I think the McLaren are going to try to at least behave themselves. They need to not mess around with each other. They need to not crash into each other. They need to be disciplined. Clearly, they have the car. This should be a McLaren 1-2. This really should be a McLaren 1-2. Anything else, and it's Norris's to lose. That's clearly what I'm seeing with the car. However, one thing that we never know from qualifying when it comes to race day is tire degradation and pit crew changes and pit strategies. And also remember that from the entire length of the cars was split by less than a second from first to last. It was a very, very small margin. I think very, very small margin. So that's why you saw Lawson leap up to like third or so whilst he was doing. He didn't finish there, but really high up in Q1. So and Q2, I think was it Q2 or Q3 that Lawson managed to find himself in Q3. Because it looked like any car on a good lap could just nick pole. Yes, it looked like any car could just nick pole when we completed. It was looking quite exciting. So let's see how tire degradation, tire management, and race strategy affects tomorrow's events, because I think that hasn't come into play. So we have to look at that first. So we can't write off Verstappen either.
All right. Yeah, okay, guys. Yeah, good. I actually, if you guys don't believe it, I have a show on South African politics in 5 minutes with Afolabi.
Hardcore.
I'm doing hardcore work.
Do you hear about the
Yeah. Yeah. What do you say
Did you hear
about
about them putting oxycontin in flour?
in South Africa? These guys are crazy, man.
No, in Gaza.
Oh,
The
God.
the
Oh,
they're
yeah. And then
putting
we need to talk about that tomorrow, Kunle. And they're shooting. Soldiers in Israel are saying that the generals tell them just shoot people when they go to get
yeah.
food. Shoot them. Now, this is terrible, man. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that tomorrow. All right, guys. And also, we'll talk about the race. Have a good one. Thank you very much. Great show.
Yo,
Okay.
all
Great
right.
show, guys.
Okay.
Are we still doing that Formula Premier League something? Are we gonna do that Premier League something?
But maybe tomorrow. Yeah, I have to get a schedule for that because we were supposed to
Okay.
do it tomorrow. Yeah. So maybe we'll do
Yeah.
that one instead. But I'll let you know. Okay.
All right.